89, 90, we had a lot of observation from the ground, a lot of people seeing strange things in the air, and the Belgian Air Force already scrambled 2 times F-16 to observe what the people saw from the ground.
Wilfred de Brouwer, a colonel at the time, was officer in charge of operations.
Some people saw very strange objects in the air with a very peculiar behavior. They called the police. The police confirmed the observation. They called the radar station of Glon, and Glon confirmed that they saw a blip in the area. And that was also confirmed by another radar station, which is about 100 miles away. Based on that, they asked to send these 2 aircraft in the air.
That night we had a scramble with 2 F-16. I was one of the 2 pilots, so I was leading the pair for that mission. We had a lot of information coming from the ground, and those people could basically inform us about the exact position of the, I would say, the UFO.
Ground radar observed a blip which was moving very fast from an area south of Brussels towards the east. The aircraft were in the near vicinity and of course tried to detect that particular object, and the 2 aircraft confirmed that they had a lock-on which showed the speed of 700 knots, around 700 knots.
The F-16s had repeated locks onto the UFO, but as they closed in, it changed direction and speed with extraordinary maneuverability. The pilots had no doubt that the target was real.
We had a different radar contact on the target, so it happens at least 3-4 times, where we could acquire a radar lock-on with the F-16, and we knew that at least 1 or 2 times we had exactly the same contact as the one which was on the screen on the ground. It was accelerating very fast, so it was going from 50 knots to more than 1000 knots. It was really climbing and descending very fast, and it was changing heading abruptly, and most of the time it was even flying supersonic.
The Air Force never did make direct visual contact with the UFO. Exactly what the target was remained a mystery.
I don't think it could have been experimental aircraft. First of all, we always look to the United States. They could have been doing experiments here. I don't see why they should be doing it in Belgium in the first place. Secondly, they confirmed officially that it was not them. We had an official declaration of the ambassador here. And thirdly, the performance of this system was such that it could not be related even to an experimental technology.
It was not a prototype, and I don't really believe it was a meteorological phenomena at that moment.
There's not much left, and well, one could refer to an extraterrestrial observation or vehicle, if you want. And I think that's an option which, or an assumption which should not be excluded. I'm not saying that it was an extraterrestrial, but it is an assumption that should not be excluded.
One of the many witnesses at the time was Colonel André Armand, a civil engineering officer in the Belgian army. In December 1989, he was driving along this road at night when he saw 3 rectangular panels of light moving slowly across the sky.
I saw the yellow panels beyond the trees there, flying till the trees there, and the yellow panels change into a white light, and this white light was coming down to me. At this moment my wife told to me, André, come, we must go now. Because when you see such big light coming to you, that's very strange to see that. And my wife said to me, André, we are going away now. This light disappears, and I saw only 3 yellow, white, smaller lights, triangular. The center, the red light, pulsing, always pulsing. And this object was flying away very, very fast in this direction.
In the following months, there were many similar sightings of a strange triangle of lights, not only in the countryside, but also hovering over the rooftops in the centre of Brussels. Marcel Alfarano, a shopkeeper, managed to capture it on his camcorder.
Ça s'est passé à 2h20 du matin, la nuit du 30 ou 31.
It happened at about 2:20 in the morning on the night of the 31st of March. I took my camera and I went upstairs. It was at that moment that I saw in the distance 2 lights. They were bigger than car headlights and they were slowly coming towards me. They were moving very slowly, high above the rooftops there. And as they got closer, I could see there was a 3rd light behind the other 2. They stopped over there. I realized it was not a plane. It was something bizarre, something unrecognizable. Later, some people from the government phoned me and they say I should not get too carried away. They said I should say it was a plane I had filmed.
We saw a big object in the sky which we couldn't identify. It had very powerful lights which directed at the ground. In 1989 and 1990 there were numerous sightings of a UFO in Belgium by more than 2,000 civilians and numerous police patrols. It was a triangular object with 3 lights at the top and 1 in the center. It was flying silently at very low altitude just above the ground. This photograph of the object, complete with thermographic analysis, is a filmed sequence. Belgian military aviation authorities have officially joined a collaborative study of the case. After ground radar revealed the presence of the object, some jet fighters were scrambled to intercept the UFO, but without success, because the object performed some incredible maneuvers, demonstrating it was in some way guided. Was it an experimental military aircraft like the stealth bomber? The US government has denied this possibility. The stealth bomber is also noisy, and the question is, why would a foreign experimental plane fly at low altitude over a densely populated area? Belgian Air Force General Charles de Bruer held a press conference on the 18th of December 1989 to confirm that they had intercepted UFOs. His written report states, "There were no signs of danger. The mystery of their origin remains, but the phenomena exists. It is real."
Initially, we thought that some of these observations were caused by atmospheric interference, such as weather conditions or electromagnetic interference. But later on, we found out that at certain moments, indeed, we could relate one visual observation with one observation on the radar. And of course, then we said, well, to have a confirmation, it may be very useful to have an additional observation from an aircraft. The night 30 and 31st March, we had an observation on the radar, and in addition, a visual observation on the ground confirmed by the police. We decided to send 2 airplanes in the air around midnight.
This video of the F-16's radar track of the object showed the performance of a vehicle of a totally unknown origin. The Air Force were at a complete loss to explain their findings. A press conference was called.
What these pilots detected was well outside the normal flying envelope of an airplane. Sometimes they had what we call lock-ons, which gave a parameters varying from speeds between 150 knots till 990 knots. An acceleration which occurred in a few seconds. These speeds would be impossible to tolerate for a human being. That's a first point. A second point is the visual observations always describe a system, a machine, which hangs and hovers above the surface at quite a low altitude without making any noise. Now, with the current technology, that will be impossible.
The radar tape from one of the F-16s was sent for detailed examination by experts at the Center for the Study of Electronic Warfare. The radar specialist who advised the investigating team there was Professor Emil Schweitzer, a distinguished physicist who teaches at the country's elite military academy. What did he make of the strange unidentified craft that the Belgian Air Force tried to intercept?
That UFO could make right turns, which is impossible by our laws of mechanics, and that UFO could also change very suddenly the velocity, which is also impossible, but because it would give an infinite acceleration.
Is it possible that the Air Force's unseen UFO was nothing more than a technical aberration in the radar equipment?
I don't think that you can explain it by saying that all radars made the same mistake. That's highly unlikely. There are different types of radar, there are different types of antennas, and also the orientation of the target was different for the 4 radars. I'm going to be fired by my colleagues, but I think that extraterrestrial intelligence is very highly likely.